Good afternoon. My name is Sean McGuire. I'm the Executive Director at the Albany County Land Bank Corporation. It is 4:06 p.m. on Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. We're calling to order a meeting of the Land Bank's Finance Committee, and we're holding this meeting remotely per New York State Open Meetings Law. The meeting is available on the Land Bank's YouTube channel for listening and viewing. Today, participating on the committee, we have the following board members: our Chair, Charles Toohey, Treasurer, Natisha Alexander, who is Chair of this committee, and Sam Wells, Vice Chair of the Corporation. From the staff, we have myself, Lynette, Shelby, Lillian, and Jason. Testing me on all those names all at once. Thank you. The agenda has been circulated ahead of time to the committee members. It contains a number of items. The first is the review of the minutes from the August and September meetings of the committee. Hopefully you had a chance to review those. Are there any questions, suggestions, or amendments to the minutes as presented? Or if there are none, if we could have a motion and a second and a vote to accept them.
So moved.
Natisha.
I'll second.
And a second. Second by Sam. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, we're going to go over to the 2026 drafted budget. This was a fun exercise only because...
The email I received the agenda, but doesn't have the draft budget. So could someone please send me that?
I'll send that to you right now. So I'm working through that. No, it should be a PDF there. One more second. I got about 2 more clicks to go, and I'll have that out.
Sean, are you resending it to all of us? Because I think in the body of the email you sent, mine is not showing up. Right? You pasted it to the body of your previous email.
No, what he did.
Yeah,
Selby sent us the agenda, and then Sean sent a separate email under his name with the budget on it.
Yep. I just sent you a PDF of the detailed budget, and then the one I sent you today was just the board budget summary, because the board adopts the budget at less of a detail, but for finance, we're going to get into more detail as to how we develop that budget. Does that make sense?
Yep, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
I have the 5-year projection. That's it. There we go.
Yep, I just sent you, you should have in a moment the other one.
Got it, I got it. Now I have to make it bigger. Okay.
So most of the changes in the budget, there's no big swings here. I think we've been able, like I said, stabilize expenses, improve some of our revenues across the board. We talked in the executive committee that the salary number is an upper level number for us to establish in the budget, but we still have to do the staff reviews, and then we'll meet with that in the executive committee. But what you'll see here, modest, first of all, we've got better detail than we have had in years past, and so you're seeing a lot more detail to show how we develop the budget. So, we used to lump, like, for example, our fee income, we had $20,000 last year, but we didn't break down where that was coming in from. This year, we're breaking that down a little bit more, and license fee income for one of our lots, our enforcement management fee that we collect along the way, our asset management fee, and so on. So expecting just a slight change there from $20,000 last year to $22,750 this year. Our other operating revenue, which is our property sales, you'll see we have a net of $700,000 that we're including there. It's a projection of $900,000 in sales, less $200,000 in book value, just for that deduction that we take. This anticipates that we have our 25 North First Street renovation done, that we have our Grand Street renovation done, and that hopefully we have some of the flip the block properties completed in that time. And so we're going to have to, we still have to get through, we're starting the bidding on the demolition for some of the sites, and then we still have to get through the bidding documents and get the plans together. So the staff's moving that along, but I'd like to get that first phase in this year. And so that's what that number represents. I'm moving down to, you'll see 4202. This is our non-operating revenue, our state subsidies. And we've got our LBI2 capital grant in there that we're working with now. We have our operations grant in there. Actually, I have that wrong. That should be 200,000. But believe me, I'll find another way to put that other money there somewhere. Our property services grant, that is going to be a multi-year grant, so we're trying to project what work will get completed in the first year versus the second year. So I've got about $1.4 million programmed into there. And then for the block by block, I've got about 25% of the anticipated grant revenue for block by block built into that subsidy there. And then we're trying to finish up this Department of Labor Workforce Development Grant. I'd like to have it done this year, but if not, I just moved it into next year's budget. I think by the time we get our reimbursements done, we're probably going to be into next year to finish that out. So we'll just book that revenue in 2026. That gives us just a big swing, almost like twice what we had budgeted last year of $2.5 million up to $5 million for this year. And we still have some work to do. There might be some carryovers into next year depending on where we get with LBI Phase 2. Or LBI Phase 2 will be done. LBI Phase 1 is now called LBI Operations. So there actually, I'll retract that. There's not a lot that we'll pull back at this point. Municipal subsidies, we still have, that's 4204. We have Albany County for the $250,000, but that's always an expense that we anticipate further down the road. We had a City of Albany grant line in there, but we're just continuing that. So that line item is going to come out. And then in our investment interest, year to date, and we didn't switch to Pioneer right away, but we are at $82,000. I just rolled that number back to $50,000. It's all going to depend on how much we have in fund balance at 3.5%. We're still keeping most of our cash on hand in the money market account and just doing transfers as we, run payroll or as we process bills weekly. We move that money over. We keep about $15,000 on hand in our checking account because our credit card clears automatically. So just to give us some buffer room there. But for the most part, we're still trying to leverage as much as we can out of our money market account. So this is going to be the change when we present the budget. It's going to look a little bit different, but it's to line up better with the chart of accounts at the state. How we report all of our information back to them, but we'll have non-operating revenue at $722,000, and then our operating revenue at $5.3 million and change. So we've got a total revenue of $6,099,000 for 2026. On the operating expense side, we're just projecting a balanced budget here. We had total operating expenses of $1.4 million. So again, we have $475 allocated to salary, but not necessarily committed to individuals. And, we'll do our annual reviews and, handle our adjustments at that point after the executive committee meets in December. You'll see those colors are in orange. They're just calculated. Our employee health insurance, we calculate out. Our payroll taxes, our IRA match, we calculate out. And then our workers' comp insurance, we're actually not really, we don't have much in there this year to be charged, so we're just going to roll that number back a little bit. Everything else across the board, our professional service contracts with insurance, our accounting, our attorney, our auditors, our IT, and then miscellaneous service costs, and that's that $593,000 is part of the LBI Property Services Grant. There's a moderate income repair program or a moderate income homeowner support program that as part of that 2 million, we're projecting half of that in 2026 to spend down. Our goal with that grant is to target areas around where we're making investments in property rehabs and offering homeowner repair support in those areas, and coordinating also with the South End Improvement Corporation, the Arbor Hill Improvement or Development Corporation, to make sure that we're not, stepping on each other's toes, that where we can make an impact near our properties, maybe we'll, free up resources for them to help out elsewhere in their neighborhoods too. Marketing budget, pretty much consistent with this year. We haven't tapped into that too much because we're just waiting to see how the year rolled out, but we need to update some of our videos on our YouTube page. We've used YouthFX in the past, but we haven't gotten really too far with them. I think just with their other projects, there's not a lot of space for them to work with us. So we'll probably have to go to another video producer to update some of that media. Our internet and our website, the big change that we're anticipating next year is we use a system called eProperty to post our properties, and it's not really growing with us anymore, and we're sort of probably growing ahead of it. And so Lynette and I are evaluating changes there to shift away from that. It's a big expense. It's like $25,000 for eProperty. We could probably do it with our tools here and have better control over, things like automations and processes that we have to have them program in the back end. And now we're at the point too where we ask for adjustments, and they're telling us it's probably going to cost us some money to have them do some specialization. So I think it's just we've hit that point. And the next bump up, to Sam, to go to Ptolemy is like twice the price, even twice what we have for eProperty. So we're in a weird spot, and so we're trying to identify better solutions. So I'm pulling back on the IT budget for that reason. The rest of it, office supplies, we're going to track a little bit down this year. Office rent, pretty consistent. We know what that's going to be. Our telephone expenses, we had really high last year, but we just did a new contract, and with our cell phones, we can lower those budget numbers. So it just gives us some more room on the operating expenses. So again, that brings that operating expense down to about 1.4 million. The big numbers on our cost of goods sold, which is all of our real estate type expenses. A lot of those are tied to other grant programs. You should see a note there where we tied, say, to LBI2, or we tie back to block by block. But there are some things like stabilizations and cleanouts and board ups that really come from our operating funds. We don't have a grant program that necessarily covers some of that work. And so we're just trying to, again, strategically identify where we plug in grant funds that generate return for us versus plugging in, our operating funds for, snow removal and tree service. Be strategic about that. Same thing with utilities or taxes or scope of work. We don't have a funding source to have tapped to a scope, so we'll have to invest in that ourselves. And then all of our insurance expenses, those all fit into there too. That's mostly out of our operating funds. Some of the property insurance does come back to us through one of the LBI grants, but that's only, I think $70,000. I'm looking at Jason because we went over it the other day, but I don't. But again, we just get some of it back at the end, throughout the year. So not much, nothing too exciting there. It's a $4.5 million other operating expenditure, 1.4 operating expenditure. Total expenses are $5,099,000, and a balanced budget with zero. I have to adjust that one grant number up to 200,000. I had it at the wrong level at 100. So I'll make some adjustments here to the 100,000 other revenue and some of our operating expenses. But that's a small number. Everything else is solid. Any
Sean,
questions, comments? Yes.
yeah, I have a quick question. So I had to jump off. I got a call, so it kicked me
Yeah.
off for a second. So I'm not sure if you addressed this. And I'm driving, so I can't really pull up the budget, although I did see a line item for it. Are we putting a cushion in for insurance, health insurance for right now?
We calculate our health insurance based on the rates they're giving us. I can move that number up a little bit if you want to give a little more cushion. I don't think we need a huge cushion, but we can
I mean, I
adjust
just
that.
don't.
They bumped us last year.
Okay. Okay, and I asked that obviously because of the conversation that's happening at the federal level, and I don't know what the insurance rates are going to look like, and I just want us to be prepared if they go up.
Gotcha. Why don't I move that number up to just 50? And then if we don't use it, we don't use it. That's all right. And then I'll move the other numbers around to balance that number out. So that means I got to move $88,000 in revenue back into other lines just to balance the budget out.
Yeah, Sean, am I reading that right? The health insurance, employee health insurance was, I think it was 77 last year, and now we have it lower. I was gonna ask
Yeah,
a similar question.
Yeah, we approved it at 77, but our year to date right now is 30,000. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
like, and not to get into the benefits that individuals use, but not everybody uses it, but we still budget for it. So what happens is on the worksheet I use, I know what our premiums are, and I budget everybody at approximately where they're at, and then we do we really do like a blended rate of like 8% of salary for health insurance, and then we do 7.65% for employer taxes and 3% for a retirement match. So that's how we come up with those numbers.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. If you think that your placeholder is enough, that's fine. I just want us to plan because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to move that number up, and if we don't use it, we don't. The reverse would be worse, right? Is that we get a huge bump in insurance or we switch plans. So I think that's fine to make some room there. I'd rather finish the end of the year having savings in our expenses. So what we'll do, so unless you have any other comments, I'll make that adjustment, and then that FY 2026 budget that goes to the board has a little bit more detail than what we have to report, but I think that's where we settled on last year is, you want to know how much we're getting in real estate sales and development and what our losses look like, and then a breakdown of where our subsidies and grants are coming in, and then just a general set of categories for operating expenses just to give us the guidelines to live within. And then for the 5-year budget projection, it's so sometimes unpredictable because we rely so much on grant sources that what we did last year was we just created sort of a wind down scenario where grants, if they went away, like how would we sustain ourselves? And our 5-year projection, I have to run the unrestricted fund balance where I project us through the end of the year. But to give you a perspective, the unrestricted net assets at about this time last year were about $2 million. Our 5-year spend down would require about 1.7 million to get there. So and we have that on hand. That's not an issue. And we'd actually in a 5-year spend down projection, we would have some money left over. I think the goal is not to wind down in 5 years, though. Just so the team here on the table knows that. I think where we're going with Block 5 Live and everything else, but that's just how we do the 5-year.
Just do this.
Yeah. Just an exercise in the numbers to make sure that we can wind operations down responsibly should something happen. All right, any questions? If not, if we could just get a motion and a second from the committee to recommend this to the full board, and then we'll vote, and then that's all I've got for you today.
So moved.
Second?
Tisha, do I have a second?
I'll
Charlie
second.
in a second?
Oh, Charlie, yeah. It works.
No, you
Charlie,
put
do you-
Sam. Do it, Sam. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, that's all I got. Like I said, I'll tweak that 100,000 in the one grant. We'll distribute some of that up to the 50,000 for health insurance. I'm gonna bring up a little bit of the marketing budget and some other operating expenses just to give us a little bit more cushion. I don't expect that we'll use it, but just to balance the budget out. All right. If you don't have anything else before the committee, I think we can stand adjourned.
Sounds good. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. You'll have, you'll have Lynette next week. I'm off, I'm teaching next week, but Lynette's gonna get you through the board meeting next week.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's on
All right, we'll see you
Tuesday the 21st, right?
Tuesday the 21st. Yep, here in the office. We'll have dinner.
You know.
All right, thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. We're adjourned at
Bye.
4:07. Bye.